My name is Molly Stone, and I am the Artistic Director at Catamount Arts. I am also a graduate of the Vermont Leadership Institute, best class ever of 2020. And I am joined here today by Mark Snelling, one of the founders of the Vermont Leadership Institute and the volunteer president. And I'm also joined here today by Jody Freed, who is the VLI director, the director of the Vermont Leadership Institute. So welcome to you both, and thank you for joining me for this very casual conversation.
Hi, Molly.
How are you?
I'm great. So first, I wanted to introduce or have our volunteer president introduce himself to everyone and anyone who would be watching this right now. So Mark Snelling, I'm going to give you the floor.
I'm Mark Snelling. I'm the volunteer president of the Snelling Center. I've been the president for about 11 years at this point. I'm also one of the founders of the Snelling Center. Back in 1992, when Governor Snelling died while in office, a group of us got together and tried to figure out what would be an appropriate memorial for him. Some folks suggested that we name a road or a building or some piece of land after him. The group decided that they would rather try and find something that would be ongoing and would continue to have an impact on leadership in Vermont and the direction of Vermont's future. Ultimately, we settled on the Snelling Center. After a number of years, it changed from the Richard Snelling Center to the Richard A. and Barbara W. Snelling Center, including my mother, who was lieutenant governor for 2 terms, as well as many other public positions into that name. We have from the beginning had a mission to include people, foster responsible and ethic civic leadership, and encourage public service and promote citizen participation in shaping public policy in Vermont. These days, we do that primarily through leadership programs. We run 4 leadership programs. The premier leadership program is the Vermont Leadership Institute, which serves about 26 people a year and has been going since 1996. We also have the Vermont School Leadership Project, which works with primarily school principals and superintendents, and has been going, I believe, since 1997. We also have the Early Childhood Leadership Institute, which works with people in the early childhood field. And then the 4th thing that we've done for about 25 years is the orientation for the legislature. When the Vermont legislature is elected every 2 years, there are usually about 40 new members. And we work with the state of Vermont to put together a 3-day orientation program for them. So we have a broad range of programs that aim to serve Governor Snelling and Barbara Snelling's memory and the principles that they acted upon as public servants.
Great. And how fabulous is it that this history didn't get locked up in stone? It is actually living and breathing new life into about 25, 26 cohort members every year for the last 26 years. So what a great way to tribute. So I want to now give the floor over to Jody Freed, who is the Vermont Leadership Institute director and also a graduate of the Vermont Leadership Institute. So it's very cyclical here. So Jody, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thanks, Molly. So yeah, graduate of the 2012 cohort, best class ever. And it was such a transformational experience for me going through VLI, both in terms of the relationships that I built within the cohort, but also just the self-exploration and the exploration of Vermont community, the complex systems of Vermont, and what does it mean to be a leader in Vermont and to operate in that ecosystem, and what are some of the tools needed to be a successful leader. And the experience was so profound on myself that when the opportunity presented itself in late 2019, pre-pandemic, I jumped at the opportunity to work with Mark and the Snelling Center team. And it is a team effort. We have Caitlin and Tarmigan who behind the scenes work the magic and make everything flow so that Mark and I can make sure with very, I would say, lean resources that we present a program that is extremely impactful on the participants. And so, yeah, I joined the team just before the pandemic started, and the first class was your class, and the cohort of 2020, and we got into it about 6 months, I guess, and then the pandemic hit, and we had to pivot. But I think it actually, the experience in terms of leadership development during the pandemic, both for the class of 2020 and the cohort of 2021 have been, I think, perfect timing in terms of when leadership development was most needed and when having a strong cohort and network around you is most needed. So it's been, while it hasn't been easy during the COVID-19, like nothing in our lives has been, it's been really, really important. And then I could just say in terms of the program itself, we start with a really deep dive into self and into self-exploration of one's values, one's leadership type, their tendencies, getting to know themselves both through their own lens and through the lens of those around them that they work with, using 360 analysis. We do a lot of coaching during that time period and really trying to understand the alignment of personal values, personality type, the job that we're in, and looking at leadership through the lens of oneself. We then transition to complex systems, and we methodically go through all of the systems throughout Vermont, whether that be the education, healthcare, government itself. We've hit climate the last few years. We have just come off of doing human-centered systems. So we go through this arc of looking at all of the different complex systems, how they interact with each other, how they impact each other. And we look at where are the intersections and how, as a leader in today's world where things are, the systems are so big and so complex, how can we really make a difference? And so we kind of bring the program home with the lens of transformational leadership and innovation. And how do we bring some of the practices that have become quite commonplace in entrepreneurial private business world, of being able to use iterative thinking and some of the system change theory that is well developed in certain aspects of our society, but how do we bring that into all of the different leadership formats, whether you're working in public, the private sector, or in the nonprofit sector. And as we have seen with the classes that have gone through the program year after year, the arc of the Vermont Leadership Institute is one that by the end of the program, almost everybody I've ever spoken to, and there's hundreds and hundreds, I think we have over 600 graduates of this program alone, over 1,000 graduates of all of the programs. Transformational is the word that you hear from people, that it really, from the beginning to the end of the program, changes the way that they approach leadership and the way that they interact within their professional and personal worlds. So I guess I'll shut up now and pass the mic back to you, Molly. Sorry. I can talk all day about this stuff.
And I would listen to it all day. Having been through the program and having experienced that arc, I know exactly what you're talking about. And I wanted to put it back to Mark really quick and ask him, in his experience over the last several years, How has he, or how have you, Mark, seen transformation in some of the folks who have gone through the program? For instance, if you've seen someone go through the program and then 5 years out, you meet them again in the street or as a VLI faculty member, what sorts of transformations are you seeing in these individual leaders?
Well, it happens all the time. We have that's one of the real joys that keeps me involved in the program and excited about it, is to watch people come into the program. And usually people are working in a leadership role. They've got a tool bag of skills. They're doing good things, but they have a desire to do more. And our motto of the Snelling Center is from a speech that Governor Snelling gave in 1985, where he said one of the most remarkable things about Vermonters is that they seek to do more than would otherwise seem possible. That is setting high targets, setting audacious goals. And so I see people come into the program, middle level managers, leaders, and they get very excited and they turn up the juices and they've got extra energy to go chase broader leadership opportunities. We have a number of legislators. Senator Christopher Bray from Addison County went through the program, and the first time I saw him afterwards, he was a senator. I really didn't know him, but he came up to me and he said, "Mark, keep doing this program. If it weren't for this program, I would not be sitting here in the Senate." And that is repeated over and over and over again to me. Jody used the word transformational, and it is indeed transformational. People are able to do more than would otherwise seem possible.
Yeah, and the way the program is set up, and I know you didn't speak about this, and this can be for a different day, but the way that the program is set up is that it really immerses people into the work. There really is no option to check out. So the transformation happens because you are all in. It's not just read a pamphlet and have a chat. It is a deep dive, as Jody said. So I'm gonna kick it back to you two, because I heard that you wanted to turn your lens on me, being a VLI grad. So I'm gonna sit back and wait for questions.
Well, I just, I guess we've talked about the changes and so on. You might bring your personal perspective to that. Your job this year has been radically changed, and as has your ability to look at it, having come off the program. And I'm just curious how the Vermont Leadership Institute served you during these difficult times.
Well, having gone through the program during the difficult times, it's hard to parse apart what was supposed to happen and what just did happen. And I think what just happened is exactly what was meant to happen, if that makes any sense. And any leader needs to be prepared, maybe not for all the details of the situation, but at least have an understanding of the systems enough to understand how they interconnect, and then understand how to react in a humane way that not only suits the individual, but everyone else that they are around or that they are accountable for. And I think that's what VLI 2020 set me up for, was to roll with the ambiguity, but know where the safety net was. And that is in building a network of people and knowing a network of people throughout the state of Vermont. And so that's what I believe that the Leadership Institute did for me, was teach me about how I'm not alone. And I think that is a mark of a good leader, is that you know that you're not alone. You're not king or queen, or you have this network of individuals to help you and to help move you further. So that's something that I learned in 2020. And in terms of my position at Catamount Arts, I transitioned from associate director of live performance to artistic director. And without VLI, I don't think that I would have taken that role on, just because it is a leadership role. And before I understood what a leader really was, I thought that maybe that position was meant for someone else. So I think going through the program teaches you that you don't need to know everything, but you need to be hungry for knowledge. And that's what it gave me.
One of the things that is clear about the Vermont Leadership Institute and that people ought to understand is that it is not a static curriculum. The curriculum really does shape itself. There is a flow, but it shapes itself both to the class and to the times. And just as an example, if we look at the subject of diversity, equity, and inclusion, that was something that about 11 or 12 years ago, in the 18 days of VLI, we spent about an hour on it. So we had a statewide leader come and talk to us and sort of give people a sense of what that meant. Those were different times. Each year since that time, the amount of time spent on diversity, equity, and inclusion has probably doubled almost every year, to the point now where when Jody sits and plans the program over the 18 days, that there is a common thread running through every single session that involves diversity, equity, and inclusion, both in the faculty, in the homework assignments, in the presentations. It is a thread that runs throughout, and that reflects our society and where we are today as a common people to look at that. And that other subjects as well, there's a flow there that adapts to the times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in on the diversity, equity, and inclusion. Is that, I mean, we've evolved to the point now with the program where I feel like it's at the core DNA of the program, and that it's a lens that's applied to everything. So as Mark, he suggested that we actually work with our faculty members. We work with the cohort, but the question of whose voice is not at the table, whose voice should be at the table, what are the power dynamics, those conversations and that lens is being applied to everything throughout the entire program. And the reality is that to be a strong leader today, that lens and those skills are critical. And the nuance that's required to be able to navigate in the complexity of today's world, you can't treat diversity, equity, inclusion as a separate class that you just hold, for one day or 2 days. It has to be a part of everything that we do. And Molly, I'm just curious, having gone through the program and having gone through a time period where that issue has been very in the forefront, but then also having experienced VLI during that time period and been looking through that lens, are there any practical examples that you can give of where you've applied that as a graduate in the work that you've been doing?
Absolutely. And this is another VLI success story. Myself and a fellow 2020 cohort member have now led our first co-facilitated DEI training, and we are in almost every other day chats about what we can do going forward in this realm of social justice and DEI. And so she and I have been working on another program called Courageous Conversations, all based around these subjects as well, because we do understand and she understands, and we came out of VLI, I came out of VLI, speaking for myself, with that greater understanding that DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion, is tied into everything that we do. You cannot take it apart from the system. You just can't. It is not a separate segment of Vermont Leadership Institute. It is written into every single session that we go through. And so knowing that and understanding that is vital. It is absolutely vital to our world and how we navigate our leadership positions. It's foundational. So yes, I took so much away from VLI 2020 in that sense, and have been moving it forward ever since, and will not look back.
I think it's important to understand that, you say courageous conversations. The reality is there are a lot of difficult, uncomfortable conversations to be had, both on diversity, equity, inclusion, and on other subjects. And that one of the special pieces of the Vermont Leadership Institute is that it provides a safe place to have those discussions. And so the trust and the relationships that build over those 26 people, the director, over time, give the opportunity for people to feel comfortable being uncomfortable, that they can try ideas, they can exchange ideas, that they will learn from a diverse group of people, pieces about themselves, people's about others, and about our society, and that it is a safe container to have difficult conversations.
Yeah, I'll just chime in, Mark. I think that's a great point, because the world we're living in is so polarized right now. And there's this just general attitude. I think that the debate has to be won or lost, right? That there's no room for differing opinions or compromise. And I think one of the wonderful pieces of VLI, the Vermont Leadership Institute, that I experienced both as a cohort member and I'm getting to experience now as director, is that everybody sitting around that table has a different voice and a different opinion. And there's a level of respect in that group or those groups in the cohorts that allows people to express themselves the way they feel comfortable doing it, because not everybody is the same. Some people like to express themselves very verbally. Some people are introverts, they need to reflect, and they need to type it into chat if it's on Zoom, or they need to put it into writing, or they at least need time to process it and come back around to it. So, providing that space where everybody has a level of comfort to be able to voice their opinion is something that I don't think can be overstated, and it is such a powerful part of the program.
Yeah, and I'd like to start wrapping it up based on what you just said, Jody, in that, when you walk into that room that first day, your heart is pounding. You don't know how others are going to see you, accept you. But the whole program is built on the understanding that you are in a safe space to be yourself, to accept yourself. And in accepting yourself, you learn to accept others. And that is the power of being a leader. It is to understand the other and to accept and learn how to empower all those around you. So that is something that I think can't be understated either about the power of VLI. So I want to just wrap it up by saying thank you so much to Mark and Jody for the work that you do and the work that you continue to do with the Vermont Leadership Institute. And just any final words before we close. And yeah, I guess that's it. So Mark,
I would just suggest, Molly, that if people are interested in the program, our website has a link that they can go to, and I assume this will be available for people to look at. The other piece is it is a program that charges a significant fee, but we have vowed over the years now of, I think, 28 years of the program, to make sure that finances do not determine who's in the room. And so we work hard with businesses and donors to raise money so that people who don't have the fee available to them in their lives can still participate, so that it is in fact a diverse group of people. So if you're interested, take a look. Don't be shy. Talk to us. We'll try and find a way. To the best of my knowledge, nobody has ever not come to the program because of finances. We find a way to make it work for you. So please take a look.
And I could attest to that. Another thing that I assumed was it was not for me in terms of not having the ability to pay, but that shouldn't stop anyone from reaching out and applying. Absolutely not. Jody.
Yeah, I guess I would just say, one, I'm available if anyone ever has questions, and my contact info is on the website. So if anyone wants to reach out, I would say on average that before someone joins the program, we have probably 5 to 6 conversations where we really dig in deep to see if it's the right match and if it's the right time, because it is a big commitment. And then the other piece I would say is that I really believe that we are at just this critical juncture, both in Vermont and as a country. Coming out of this pandemic, there's an incredible opportunity in terms of innovation and changing some of the systems that have been in place for decades. And in order for that to happen, it's going to take strong leadership. And so even though I know there's a lot of folks are tired after the last year, I hope that people jump into this program, because I think this is where they're going to find the energy. This is where they're going to find the support. And this is where they're going to really find the launching pad to be able to make some of these changes for the future. So I'm excited to meet any of the new prospects who decide to participate, and I'm available if they want to chat.
Great. Well, thank you both for doing this interview, and thank you for all those folks who are watching. And I hope to meet you at a VLI reunion someday. Thanks.
Sounds great. Thank you, Molly.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks,
Molly.
Jody.
Bye, Mark. Bye, Molly.